Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. In this video, I'm going to be converting this all-wheel drive P80 car to front-wheel drive rear suspension. This car was converted to a 6-speed manual front-wheel drive, and the bushings in this all-wheel drive system are just rotting away. The rear end is not as stable as it should be, and it's got a lot of extra weight, probably about 350 pounds with this rear-wheel drive equipment. So we're converting it to front-wheel drive. It's best if you have a donor car on hand. If not, you need everything that donor car has on the rear end. You need the calipers, the rotors, the brake lines, the delta links. You need the shocks, these things that the springs sit in at the top. You need the parking brake lines. The ABS sensors may be different. This rear end came out of a C70, so it's about an inch wider, a ½ inch on each side. If you're running stock wheels, that should not be a problem. If you're running wider wheels, you may have rubbing at the rear end up here in the fender well, so you may have to roll fenders. But we're running stock size wheels, so we shouldn't have that problem. You also need the rear shocks, the things that hold the spring in, rear springs, fuel tank, all the vacuum lines and everything related to that fuel tank. And try not to damage none of that stuff. I see right here that I kinked this vacuum line here. That's a bad thing to do because this vacuum stuff is hard to replace off of the top of that tank. So you want everything that goes all the way up to the engine on the fuel lines and the vacuum line. It's best if you go with a front-wheel drive 99 and newer when you're dealing with a 99 car. If you're dealing with a car up to 98, you use all the 98 stuff. But this stuff out of this C70 will work rear end wise. Your brake line's a little different because this 99 car has 2 brake lines going to the rear. Your 98 and newer cars only have 1 brake line going to the rear, I believe. And this fuel tank stuff is out of a 98 car, not a 99 and newer, so it may be a little different. 99 2000 is a little different than 99 and older. So anyway, I got everything I could. I'm not sure what this is. This is probably ABS wire. Yeah, I got the ABS wire and plug off of that C70, so we should be good to go. Once you have the car where you want it, chalk the front tires, pull the fuel door release, open the fuel door, then disconnect your battery because you'll have the doors open and stuff like that. You don't want to drain your battery down doing all that stuff. We jacked the car up, we took the wheels off, we put the jack stands just forward of all this rear end stuff and these brake cable stuff. You want to run the gas tank down if you can because you're pulling the gas tank and you don't want all that gas tank stuff. Going to have to lower the exhaust down to get the gas tank out, but we should be able to get, we may be able to get the rear end out without lowering the gas tank initially. But all this stuff is coming down and coming out, and we're going to get started. We got it jacked up. We jacked it up by that centerpiece. Be careful the car doesn't fall when we do that. We put the jack stands there on both sides, and we took the wheels off, and now we're getting ready to go inside, take the stuff loose for the parking brakes, take the parking brake stuff loose. All this parking brake stuff was replaced about a year ago, so maybe 2, so it should come out easy. And we're going to start taking the whatever is in the way on exhaust because we don't want to bust up the exhaust. I don't know if we'll be able to use this exhaust with the front wheel drive stuff. We'll see. And then we're going to take the tank out. So We're gonna go inside, pull the center console to get the parking brake stuff loose, and going to start taking all these bolts out of this rear end to get all this out. Took this exhaust hanger loose here. I'm getting ready to remove this bolt, this bolt, this bolt. I probably will take the brake lines and leave them hooked up to the caliper until I'm ready to replace those. I'm gonna take that bolt loose there, that bolt loose there, that bolt loose there, and then the bolt up there that holds the part here of the all-wheel drive system. Drawing a blank on what to call that. And I'm just gonna keep going from there. These are probably 17s. This is the 18. Pull that bolt out and keep going. Empty out the back of the car. Take that floor loose. 2 10s on this side, 2 10s on that side. Pull this floor back a little bit. Then you can get the shock bolts on top of the floor of the car. Take the center console out. Lift up the armrest. Open up the little panel. Take the 2 screws out there. Undo your little boot. Lift it up. Slide it back. You gotta take this boot, slide it toward the driver's seat, unclip it, slide over the handle, because you got to take the parking brake cables loose and put new parking brake cables in. So you need to take the back seats out so you can access those cables from here. Next, I'm going to disconnect these brake lines so that I can get the rear end down, because they're kind of attached to this part of the rear end, and I may have to go get brake lines, because these brake lines are different than the brake lines that it has to connect to. So we'll see how that goes. Sometimes these little brake hoses connect to the rear end, so I may be able to do that on this side. I'll have to get a brake hose for that side. I may have one. I'll check it out. There's a video about parking brake cables, but you got to pull that clip up and you got to take the rotor off and then do it that way. I don't know if you can undo the brake cables up there without taking them loose inside the drum, but let me reach up there and try. I'm going to take the bolts out of this brake handle to release it from the floor, and that may give me enough slack to take the cables loose. Pull them through the floor. Took the 3 bolts out of the parking brake handle so that we could move the whole assembly around and get the cables loose. We got the cables loose, pulled up the carpet back here, took the clips out of the cables so that we could pull the cables out from under the car. And because we are taking the whole assembly down, the parking brake cables will already be attached to them, so that's no real big deal. Now I got to get that 17 loose, that 14 removed, and I removed that 17 already. Another difficult part was getting the brakes lines loose. I couldn't get that one loose there, so I bent the bracket open and took the brake line out. I was able to get that brake line loose, so we'll see how that works out. But let me get this one loose. I think I'm gonna have to put a 4-foot cheater on it to get it loose. I couldn't get Henrietta to break it loose, and I gotta put a 14 on that one and try to get that one loose. Let me spray that. When this stuff rusts, it gets really hard to get loose. Had to put a 2-foot cheater on that after I soaked it down for about an hour. Got that one out. I think all these are out, so I'm gonna move the jack and get the viscous coupling loose on the front side of it. Then I'm gonna go work on those bolts on the other side. The bolt on the front of the VC was a 17. So now I'm gonna come over here and get these bolts loose on this side. This one here, 18. These 3 here, 17s, this 17, this 14, and that 17, and this rear end should come down. Now I have it supported by the floor jack, and I already pulled the parking brake cable out on this side, and hopefully the straps on the fuel tank will hold the fuel tank up. When you come on the passenger side, I recommend that you pull that bolt, looks like a 13, maybe a 12, out of that bracket, which is holding the rear end to the fuel filler. You want to take that loose. Then you want to knock this one loose. Then you want to knock this one loose. Then you want to take that one loose before you get this stuff up here loose, because once you take this stuff loose, it's going to be hard to reach that if you want to use your impact. So that's the order I recommend you take these bolts loose in. Before you start lowering this down with the jack, it is supposed to be supported under there. Do know that your fuel tank straps are hooked into the rear suspension. So when you start lowering that, the tank's going to start coming down. So you want to go inside the car and unplug the fuel pump and the ABS wires and everything that's plugged in inside the car. Also take the front straps loose from the fuel tank, because it's going to come down with the rear end. Also unhook your fuel tank neck, because it's going to come down because this bracket is hooked onto that. And take a couple of nuts out of here, these 10 millimeters, so this can come in while that neck is coming down. So you want to make sure that your fuel stuff is ready to come down with the rear end. With the fuel door open, you want to come in here and release this clip ring with a flat tip screwdriver. Take that ring out and then push this gasket into the body from around this fuel opening. I'm ready to lower this down, but there's a couple of things I need to do before I pull that bolt out of the front of that viscous coupling and the last two bolts out of the back of this rear end. I need to go inside, disconnect all of those wires. ABS, fuel pump, and whatever else hooked up through those wires. I need to disconnect the fuel lines from the sleeve under the car. And I need to pull the exhaust loose, because the tank straddles the exhaust, and I'm not going to be able to get that out of there with the exhaust intact. So you can get the rear end components down, but the fuel tank components won't, because they're straddling the exhaust. So you have to lower the exhaust. So that's where I'm at, getting ready to pull the exhaust down and disconnect the fuel lines from up front. Couldn't find any blades for my sawzall, so I took this multi-purpose tool, put a extreme metal bit in it, and cut the exhaust right there, about a foot back from where the cat should be. And I'm going to unhook it from the tailpipes hangers, and then I'm going to slide it out, because it had nowhere to take it loose from. I took this hanger loose from up here. I took one of the hangers loose from over there. The other hanger was already loose. Now the exhaust is totally loose from the car with the rear end. Now I need to go up front, take the fuel line loose from the back of the engine, and then I could pull all this stuff out from under the car. I reached up there and disconnected the fuel line. The fuel line had its own release tab on it. So I pushed the line in and I pulled on the plastic that was on the end of it, and then just pulled the line off. Now I'm going to unhook it from here. It looks like it has a latch on the front of this thing that'll open up this line holder. This other line that was running up with the fuel line is the line that goes to the purge valve. So I disconnected it from the purge valve, unclipped it from the fan, and pulled it down. Now I should be able to pull this out of here. So this is where it was coming up to, right here. I unplugged it, unclipped it from the fan, pulled it out from under the car. Now I should be able to pull this thing from under here. And since it's on the jack, I'm going to move my tools and go ahead and do just that. Here I go. Exhaust, fuel tank, rear end. Should all come down out of here. It's barely holding on to my jack, so it might fall. I'm gonna try to put my jack under it a little further so it don't fall out, and I may be able to get the whole thing out of here. Oops, didn't have my jack handles locked in. I don't know if I'm gonna get that right again in or not. Nope. Let me see if I can get my pry bar in there to get that down. Ouch. Well, let me try a big screwdriver or something. There it is, folks. The old is gone. Time to prep it for the replacement, the front wheel drive rear suspension. Let me tell you what you got to do. A few things here. First thing I recommend you do is hit that with a wire brush and screw those spring hats in. Next thing you got to do is cut this off both sides. Next thing you got to do is make sure that plug is out of there, and I believe out of there, because those where your straps go from your fuel tank straps. So you got to clear out those plug holes. So driver side, tank, spare tire well. Wouldn't be a bad idea if you were going to do any rust prevention and rust repair down here. You need to put the hanger here for the front wheel drive exhaust system. So when you put the exhaust system in, you can hang the muffler. Or figure out a way to do your dual muffler system, but you got to make sure none of that stuff interferes with your tank. quickest way to cut these off will probably be with a sawzall. If you don't have a sawzall, use a grinder wheel. If you don't have a grinder wheel, use that tool I used. But you need to cut those posts off. Now you had a couple electrical connectors back here. This electrical connector went to your ABS sensors. This electrical connector here went to this valve here that is hooked up to a line coming off your fuel tank vent. That may cause a check engine light if it's not hooked back up. This line here, these two connectors go to your fuel pumps. Your fuel pump sender. This electrical connector here goes to this valve right here into your charcoal canister. That'll probably cause a check engine light if it's not hooked back up. And this electrical connector here went over to the other side of the tank to that passive pump there. And then the last electrical connector, the yellow one, went to your ABS wires. So you got a connector going to a valve here, a connector going to a valve here. If you don't have a 99 or newer fuel tank system, that may be a problem for you. Here's the 98 fuel pump, and it has that valve there. So I do have that electrical connector. I have another electrical connector here that goes over to that valve, so I should be good to go. I should not have a problem with these check engine lights. I got both of those valves. Couple things I'm gonna do to prep. One, you take the heat shield down from the tank area. This one is gone, long gone, so it wasn't necessary. Now I gotta cut these bolts off so they don't dig into the tank. Cut that off there, cut that off there, cut that one off there. Then I think that's okay, but I got to cut that off because I got to put the bracket that holds the muffler and the charcoal canister up here and in that hole there. So I got to cut that bracket off. I'm also going to cut that bracket off because I don't think I have a need for it, but I'm not sure if it'll be in the way of my charcoal canister setup. Actually, I'm going to leave that one there. I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to cut this off and that off. So 3 things I'm going to cut off, 4, 5, 6 things I'm going to cut off. With this cutting tool and 2 dull blades, I cut both of these things off. I also beat the dent out of here, bent the door out. I have a replacement door for this from that accident. So I pounded this inside with my sledgehammer, and I used this and I used this to try to get this back in shape, which I think I did a decent job. So I put a file to that so it don't have any sharp edges. Rough edges, but not sharp. I wire wheeled all this rusty stuff. I'm gonna hit this stuff with black gloss spray paint because I don't have flat handy. My helper didn't find black, flat, black. So I'm gonna hit that a little bit more with the wire wheel and paint all this stuff. I cut that bracket off. Some of these have a weld in the screw hole. This has a bolt, so that's good. This is my tank receiver, kind of rusty. I'm going to spray some penetrant up in there and run a bolt in and out of there. And I scrape some of the rusty stuff off of there with a wire wheel, and I'm going to paint that stuff too. Not sure what I'm going to do with the brake lines yet. I need to learn how to flare them and get them to the right length, flare them. I'm probably going to go out to that C70 tomorrow and cut or remove what was on the C70 to bring here because I don't have it on my rear end. I also might take the fuel line off that C70 because it should plug in like this one did, and that 98 one doesn't. So I think I'm gonna make a trip to the junkyard to hook up the fuel line. Now I'm gonna hook the fuel tank up first because I think that's easier, running all the stuff through the hole, hooking it all up. Now I forgot to remove that ground wire from there, but that's no big deal. I don't need it with the stuff I'm removing, so I'll take that ground wire off next and hopefully get all this other stuff connected up tomorrow and get this car back on the road tomorrow. But I am done for today. I'm gonna spray, rattle can this rusty stuff and call it a night. Anybody need anything off of this before it goes to the salvage yard? If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.